Hi, I'm Alex Rodriguez, the most interesting Ghostbuster in the world, also part of the Circuit City Ghostbusters. Today we're going to show you kind of how to weather your pack. A lot of people like their packs looking a little old and beat up because, hey, it's equipment. We use it all the time. A lot of other people like the pristine look, but like I said, today we're going to just kind of go over how to weather it a little bit. If you want to come over here and check out our pack that we're going to be working on today, you see it's still kind of nice and clean. It's got some little nicks and scratches on it, but we're going to just accentuate that. So here we go. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of go over the tools that I'm going to be using to achieve the scuff paint. Now we're going to go over a few other things on how to weather the pack as far as fuller earth, making it look dusty and old. Working on some metal parts, your screws, all that other good stuff, but that'll come later. Right now we're going to talk about all the little things I'm going to use to achieve this scuff paint. So if you want to come on over here and check it out, we're going to be using some different grits of sandpaper. This is going to help achieve that, you know, worn look. You ran into something, you fell down, things like that happen when you fight gods. So we're going to use some sandpaper. We're going to use a few paint markers, a dry paintbrush. You can get it anywhere at a dollar store, some steel wool, a little bit of water, a little sponge brush, and we're all going to show you why here in a little while. All right. Okay, guys, so we're going to start working on this scuff paint. So first, usually where I start off, now let me be the first to say this, I did not develop this process. This is just how I do it. There's a million ways to do it. I'm sure if you try it my way, you might find a better way to do it. Who knows? But this is how I go about doing it. So first off, depending on your pack, depending on what it's made out of, if it's got any kind of texture to it, if it's really smooth or anything, usually paint ends up sticking a bit better if you have a textured surface. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this 150 grit sandpaper and just kind of go ahead and hit some edges and stuff, and that's where we're going to kind of start, and we're going to build off of that. So if you want to step on over here, and I'm going to kind of show you what I do. So we're going to start right here where the power cell is, and we're just going to kind of take our sandpaper and just kind of hit it a little bit. I mean, you know, this is a scuff. It's not serious damage. So, you know, and it's going to kind of give you a pattern on where your scuff is going to go, the direction and stuff like that. So if you want like really heavy stuff, you know, you just kind of got to get down on it a little bit. I mean, you're going to scuff it up, so don't worry about messing it up. You know, you got to remember edges get hit the most, so that's usually the area you want to focus on a bit more. It's just the edges of corners, stuff like that. Alright, so now that we got a little bit of scuffed up, now this pack is a carnivorous creation shell, so it's all nice fiberglass, and if you can see a little bit, it has texture on it already. So this is going to be a little bit easier than if you have like maybe like an all one-piece shell or a vacuum form shell. You know, those things are plastic, so you might want to approach it a little bit different, but for this one, this is what I'm going to do. So there's that, and you can kind of see, like, oh, look at the little weathering, and it'll look nice. It does. It looks awesome. So that's just the color underneath. Some people have an idea that if they painted it silver before they painted it black, that when they scuffed it, the silver would show through. Now, it may a little bit, but not that much. That's not really how paint works. I mean, you're still scratching down to the surface. So, yeah. But good luck if you're trying it. So anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to grab our little piece of cardboard right here, get it out of the trash, get it off the street. That's where I get my stuff from. And we're just going to kind of get this started. Now, this is just a Sharpie paint marker. It's silver. That's all it is, you know, it's nothing fancy. You don't have to go and hunt it down or nothing like that. So what I'm going to show you is basically what's called dry brush painting. So I'm going to take a little bit of this, I'm just kind of hit the edges just a little bit, dab, 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 dab. And then After you get that on there, you're going to take your dry paintbrush, make sure it's dry, and just kind of work it, you know. This is probably the best way to do it, is just kind of be loose with it, you know. I mean, these are scuffs, it's damage, it's not in particular places or anything like that. You know, and just kind of whip it a little bit with the end of the brush. You know, if you want to, you can get longer strokes, kind of sends the striation of the scratch down a little bit. Build up a little bit more here. Oh, it's all right. It's a happy little scratch. We can just kind of keep working it down, you know, flip it out a little bit. Now, it doesn't look much right now, but once you start working it through the whole pack, you'll start to see. If you want to, you can use your finger. Kind of, don't be afraid of the paint. Just kind of get it on there, smudge it around, make it look old. You can build up the paint as much as you want. Usually on anything metal, if it's powder coated or has been painted or anything like that, if it gets a scratch, it's going to have high points and low points. So it's going to be more silver in some areas than it would be in others, you know, just depending on how far down the damage has happened. So, you know, you can make it real faint. You can kind of go back onto the edge just a little bit. Make it just a little more brighter, you know, because it shows more metal. So we'll just keep going and working our way down these little areas. And remember, like, there's no right or wrong way to do this, people. So, you know, if you don't like this version of the way I'm doing it, and like I said, if you have a better version or a better idea, go ahead and do it. Check it out. Worst thing that happens, you might have to repaint your pack, but other than that, oh well. Starting to look old, like me. Now there is a really neat way to kind of keep this paint from getting damaged at all. Is once you get it all done, if you want, you can take a really super fine mist of like just some cheap hairspray like Aquanet or something, just lightly dust your pack and it'll kind of make a little barrier and keep all your little details nice and crisp and clean. Same thing with the fuller earth. If you like to make things dusty and old, if you want the fuller earth to stick to your pack better, a light mist of a little bit of hairspray and it'll work great. But we'll go over that another time. But as you can see, I'm just doing it a little bit at a time, you know. There's really no way you're gonna get it totally like all done at once. So just take your time. Sometimes if you get too much paint on there, you can just drag it out with your finger. Kind of helps out the look a little bit. Make some higher areas here. And remember, people fall down, so if this was on your back when you fall down, there's going to be kind of an angle of where some scratches can totally be. It doesn't have to be just edges or anything, you know. Say you were running down 22 flights of stairs, chasing something that looked kind of like a dog. You're going to fall sometimes. That happens. So And you usually will have a little bit of residual paint on your brush, so you know you can kind of just go over some edges like this if you want, and it'll pick up the paint that's left on the brush. That way you don't have to get on it all over the place. You just kind of work the paint around and around. Now, if you're lucky, like fortunately we are, you're gonna have some metal parts on your pack, and that just kind of makes things a little bit easier. We get up here to the ion arm. This whole bad boy is aluminum, so what we get to do there is we're going to follow this striation all the way up. We're just going to take our 150 grit again. We're just going to kind of follow it. That's what I do. And just kind of rush it down. Wooden shim. Yep, good enough. Remember, folks, always use a sturdy surface when you're weathering your pack. I mean, you can always drop it on the ground a bunch. That'll do it. Just kind of get that off of there. So it's scuffed up a bit, that paint. So we're going to kind of come back out here. You know, just make a couple little dots here and there. So you can kind of see you'll get some high spots and some low spots, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So other than that, I'm going to do a little bit more on here, and we'll get back to this, and you'll kind of see the progress. Alright guys, so I've kind of just started to move down the pack a little bit, started working the bumper guard, the cyclotron, the infilter, and all that stuff. Now you got to remember, this is the bottom area. This is around our butt. We're going to fall. This stuff is more prone to hit, so this is going to get a lot of weathering. The bumper guard, a big weather, just because, hey, it's a bumper guard. You know, this is what keeps the cyclotron from getting busted, so it's going to get a lot of wear and tear. We're also going to look at just the cyclotron lights, especially around the edges. You know, like things get old, they get wallered and weathered and curved a little bit. So, you know, again, you're just going to take, this is a finer grit, this is a 400 grit sandpaper. Though you don't want a big gouge in it, you just kind of want to lightly hit it up around the edges. You know, maybe a little bit on the inside too. Same thing over here too. Now this one right here, if we're thinking logically, like this one really wouldn't take too much damage, because I mean we have the bumper guard and the bellow and your end filter all protecting it if you fall. So I mean, it's probably not going to get too much done, but definitely your corners of your bumper guard, around the bellow, the cyclotron, around here, the other layers, the magnetic layers on the bottom, going to get a lot of weathering. So you just go ahead and kind of just start going at it with your sandpaper. And like I said, your sandpaper is going to kind of help guide you. Make sure you get the bottom of the end filter real good, because, you know, again, that's the bottom of the pack. It's going to get hit a lot. You know, you can always do the tops of your bolts or your screws. You know, you don't really have to blow off all your dust, because, hey, that's free dust right there. Who needs full of earth? So yeah, so we'll do that, and then of course, you know, we'll go ahead and we'll go back to our dry brush. I've already kind of hit the bumper guard a little bit, so I'm gonna hit this corner right here, the bumper guard, just doop doop doop, and then again, just kind of flick it out. Depends on which way you want to take the damage, if you want to come in or out. From here, I would kind of think that this little area right here would just get bumped a lot. So it's not going to have a lot of big sweeps into the inside. So it's just a lot of cosmetic stuff. Got a little heavy there, but that's okay. And you can always just kind of brush it back out. And like I said, all the excess paint that'll be left on your brush, you just kind of keep working it around. It highlights your edges and stuff. I'll move up here a little bit. Kind of get that excess on there. you can kind of get a little rough with it. Push a little bit with the brush. Spreads it out a little bit. Put another little high spot in it. Now, if you have any questions, you know, of course, you can always leave comments in the bottom. We'll try to get to you. Again, we're going to weather this pack pretty good, but we're not going to do all of it today. There's going to be aspects of it that we are going to leave for later. But again, this is just a little tutorial on kind of how to go about the dry brush painting or the scuff painting or whatever you want to call it. So I've kind of moved a little bit around the pack. We've hit a lot of the edges, a lot of the metal pieces. Now, like I said, it just kind of depends on what your pack is made out of, is how you're going to kind of go about starting to do some of the scuff paint. Now, I worked my way down here to the wand. Now, of course, these, they come off. We use them, we drop them. So it's going to have a lot more damage on it than the pack normally would itself. So, I mean, you going heavy with the weathering on here usually works out well. It looks a lot better, too. Like I said earlier, luckily we have a pack that has a lot of metal parts on it. So, I mean, I really don't have to do a lot of scuff painting on the wand just because I just take a 150 grit piece of sandpaper, kind of just scuff the edges up. You want to kind of come over here, check that out. I mean, like I said, you can just hit the edges, hit your heat sink, all your little corners and stuff, your weld lines. You know, just kind of give it a little bit of a roughed up look. I mean, that's what we're going for. It's weathering. Now, of course, if you're working with something else, maybe like a kit and your stuff is all fiberglass or resin, you're going to have to do a lot more painting than sanding. If you have like a matty wand or something on your pack, I originally had a matty wand and I actually liked painting it because it already had kind of a textured surface. It took the paint fairly well and it looked good too. Of course, always get that down there real good by the gun rail. You know, rehooking, it's going to jack your stuff up, especially over here on the V-hook. You're going to want to work a lot of weathering around there because, you know, we don't always get it the first time, but, you know, you're going to knock some paint off here. So it's just for more of a realistic look, I guess. But other than that, I mean, we're looking pretty good. Again, we're going to talk about some other weathering aspects later in other videos as far as like possible weathering aspects for screws, metal pieces, stuff like that. We're also going to try to look into the rust. There's a product out there right now that duplicates the look of rust. Just in case like you don't have a lot of metal parts, you can kind of simulate the rust look. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to finish up here, and when I get done, we'll show you. Alrighty. So I've just kind of gone through the whole pack real quick with some quick scuff paint. Now, I didn't get down real nitty gritty or anything because this is just a little quick tutorial, but we are going to work on this pack some more. We're going to do a few other things to it, like I was talking about earlier. Just some rusting of the screws and some of the other metal stuff. Now, as far as any of that goes, like if you want to, you can get a little Tupperware container, a little bleach, maybe like half ounce of bleach, the rest water. Take your screws and soak them in that. And that, what it's going to do is over the course of the next couple days, it's going to kind of rust them. Now, you don't want them to sit there for a long time because the threads will get all yucky, but you know, that's what we're going for, yucky, right? Other than that, there's a lot of other ways you can go about weathering a pack, and there's a lot of other things you can do to it. And eventually, we're going to get to kind of some of them, if not try to do all of them. But it's mainly going to be on this pack. So, I mean, if you want to kind of come in and get a look at it and kind of see what we did a little bit, you can kind of see we just kind of heavily weathered the cyclotron because, like I said, it's torch butt, so it's going to hit a lot of stuff. Don't worry about that. That happens all the time. If you pan up, we weathered the thrower. And like I said, luckily this one is an all metal thrower, so I really didn't have to do any painting as far as any scuff paint. I just went through with a heavy grit sandpaper, just kind of hit all my edges, stuff like that. Like I said, the gun rail, things like that. You know, kind of did a little bit of black paint on our labels, just kind of make them look old and dirty. Come around here, we've worked the motherboard. The motherboard is aluminum as well, so luckily we didn't have to do anything to that. We just scuffed it up with some sandpaper, kind of make it look like it's got beat up. Other than that, that's about it, guys. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's what you want to do. It's how much work you want to put into it, invest time into it. So other than that, guys, this is Alex from the Circuit City Ghostbusters, and I just want you guys to keep busting, my friends.